I'm joined now by Mayor Bass. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks for talking to me.
So what was the practical result of the fact that Donald Trump has federalized the National Guard?
The practical result was chaos. That's what it was. It was chaos, and it was adding on to layers of fear that had already happened after the raids in February. So it creates a sense of uncertainty in our city and basically just contributes to the widespread concern. People are terrified. They don't know what's going to happen. Should I go to work tomorrow? Will it be my workplace? Should I send my kids to school? Will they come to my kids' school? You know, one of the raids that happened on Friday, we were very concerned about because down the street was a high school that was going to have a graduation that afternoon.
Yeah.
I wonder how many parents didn't go to their kids' graduation.
Now, to that exact point, in an effort to try and prevent this from happening, where the National Guard comes in, you had a conversation with Donald Trump's border czar, Tom Homan. How did that conversation go?
Well, basically, what my conversation was about was trying to prevent the deployment.
Yeah.
We know how that worked out.
Right.
So I was trying to explain to him that I did not think it was needed, and that more importantly than that I thought that it was going to sow a sense of chaos in the city, and people just don't need that.
Well, doesn't that feel like a fool's errand? Because it seems that the whole point was exactly that, in order to provoke a bigger right. Blow up as the result of bringing the National Guard in.
Right, and again, I think it's really deterring from what the president said originally, which is this is going to be targeted to violent criminals. How do you go from violent criminals to people who are at a workplace?
And you know, to that exact point, there is polling that shows that when it's an issue of just making sure that violent criminals are
right.
deported, when it's hardened, criminals, whatever it may be, the people who Donald Trump came into office right. Promising that would be his priority, is that what's happening here? Has that been what's happening at any point of this process?
Well, there have been a few targeted arrests that happened early on. This was a dramatic departure from that. And so I don't know how you justify it with the mothers and fathers that were in the warehouse that they
right.
actually are hardened criminals.
And so how do we get out of a situation where the whole point is that the President of the United States is trying to inflame tensions by virtue of bringing these troops in?
Well, I'm just hoping that he will see from the chaos that we've seen today in Los Angeles that maybe he would rethink that practice of what he's doing.
But isn't that the point? Doesn't he want to see the chaos? And so
yeah,
is there enough of an incentive?
I'm hoping this will be enough.
Yeah.
You have burning cars on the street. You have graffiti everywhere. You have vandalism that's happening. Tires that are being slashed. Is that enough?
But I mean, the argument could be made that that's exactly what he wants to see, that he wants to inflame those exact tensions, because the more we're seeing that, the less we're talking about his rift with Elon Musk, the less we're talking about the budget bill.
Exactly, but what frightens all of us is what's the end game to that?
Yeah. Well, do you have any concern that the end game might be the invocation of the Insurrection Act, for example?
I'm concerned about everything, and I think the biggest concern that we have is the uncertainty. Not knowing what is next, not knowing what the goals are, not knowing what the trajectory is. Where are we going with this?
And to the point of uncertainty, I mean, that hits the hardest with our Latino population here in California. And so, especially in Los Angeles, where I live and where we are right now, what's your message to that population that doesn't know whether they're safe enough to go out to school, to work?
And let me just say that you're talking about the city of Los Angeles, where the population is about 50% Latino.
Yeah.
There's a large immigrant population in the Asian community. There are immigrants from the Caribbean countries, from the African countries. So it is the generalized sense of fear that gets created. But my message to all immigrants, and especially Latino immigrants who have been targeted in this raid, is that I am the mayor for all of Los Angeles. I stand with all Angelenos, regardless of how you got here, when you came, or where you came from.
And then what is your message to Donald Trump in light of what we're seeing right now?
My message to Donald Trump is that if the goal here was creating, or rather addressing violence and addressing law and order, you've actually done the opposite.
Right. Mayor Bass, thank you so much for taking the time.